All right, so get this right. Google has dropped this thing called Gemini 2.5 Pro, and honestly, it's kind of a big deal. We're not just talking about like a routine software update or anything. This has the potential to really shake things up when it comes to artificial intelligence.
It really does. And the article we're diving into today, it's called Google Revoluciona la AI con Gemini 2.5 Pro, un salto cuántico en inteligencia artificial. And even the title, right? It doesn't mess around. They're calling this a quantum leap in AI, which, that's a pretty bold statement.
Yeah, no kidding. A quantum leap, that's serious stuff. So basically what we want to do in this deep dive is, well, cut through all the hype and try to understand what exactly makes Gemini 2.5 Pro so groundbreaking. What are the core advancements here and how could they actually affect us, like in our daily lives and various industries in the future, all that. But of course, we're going to do it in a way that everyone can follow, even if you're not, a computer scientist or anything.
Absolutely. And this whole idea of a quantum leap, right? It's not just about like making things a bit faster, slightly more efficient. It's about a fundamental shift in what AI can do. It's like they're saying this is the combination of years and years of research that's finally hitting this like next level of capability.
Okay, so to get into the specifics, the article dives into this thing called razonamiento profundo y contextual, which, if you don't speak Spanish, it basically means deep and contextual reasoning. But what does that actually mean in a way that, we can all grasp?
Right. So think of it this way. With this deep contextual reasoning, Gemini 2.5 Pro isn't just processing information in a superficial way. It's not just like spitting out responses based on some simple pattern matching. It's actually demonstrating an understanding of the nuances of the implications within the data. The article uses this phrase, think before responding, to describe it, which is pretty interesting.
Think before responding. It's almost like it's implying a level of thoughtfulness, almost like a human would have, that we usually don't think of when we think of AI. So it's not just giving the most statistically probable answer, but really considering the context of the information. Why is that such a big deal?
Well, because, think about it, that kind of deeper understanding has the potential to dramatically improve the accuracy of AI, especially when we're talking about really complex scenarios. Like, let's take medical diagnosis, for example, right? It's not just about getting more diagnoses correct. It's about potentially catching those really subtle signs of illness that even a really experienced doctor might miss. And that could mean catching things early, maybe even before symptoms appear. And that can lead to much more effective treatment.
Wow. Yeah, I see what you mean.
And then take financial analysis, this ability to understand how all sorts of different economic factors are interconnected. That could lead to much more reliable forecasting, which I think is something a lot of people would appreciate. And of course, in scientific research, imagine AI sifting through massive data sets and spotting those truly unique patterns that humans might just overlook. It could really speed up the pace of discovery across so many fields. So, thinking about your own work or your own interests, what are some of the challenges you face that this kind of deep reasoning in AI could really help with? It's something to ponder, right?
It really is. Okay, so moving on, the article talks about codificación y desarrollo de software, which translates to coding and software development. Now, you might be thinking, well, I'm not a coder, so why should I care? But trust me, this is relevant to all of us because it has huge implications for the technology we use every single day.
Exactly. And what's really remarkable here is that Gemini 2.5 Pro isn't just limited to generating new code. It can actually understand existing code, transform it, optimize it, and work with multiple programming languages. This kind of blows the doors wide open for what's possible in software development.
So, what are we talking about here? Are we talking about being able to develop new apps and software much faster? Or, maybe even having software that's less buggy, more efficient, more powerful?
All of the above, really. Think about the possibilities if developers could create these really sophisticated applications in a fraction of the time it takes now. And, for those of you who aren't coders, think about all the apps and software you use on a daily basis. The potential here is that thanks to this kind of AI, all that software could become much more powerful, more reliable, and yeah, we'd see new innovations coming out much faster.
So better software for everyone, even if we don't understand all the ones and zeros behind it. Okay, now, get ready for this, because the next concept is a little bit mind-bending. The article talks about Multimodality y comprensión holística, which basically means multimodality and holistic comprehension. Honestly, it sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It does, a little bit, right. But it's actually pretty straightforward when you break it down. So multimodal just means Gemini 2.5 Pro isn't limited to processing just one type of data. Like, a lot of AI systems out there, they're really good at dealing with text, but that's kind of it. But this thing, it can work with text, it can work with audio, it can process images, it can even understand video all alongside each other. And then the holistic comprehension part means that it can combine all that information, all those different inputs to get a much more complete, a more nuanced understanding of whatever situation it's looking at. It's much closer to how we humans perceive the world, taking in all these different sensory inputs.
So let me see if I get this right. Instead of, say, just reading a news article about some big event, it could also watch video footage of the event, listen to audio recordings of what people are saying, and then combine all of that with the text to get a much deeper, more well-rounded understanding of what actually happened, like the motivations, the context, all of it.
Exactly, you got it. And that opens up some pretty wild possibilities, right? Imagine like virtual assistants that can not only understand your voice commands, but also your gestures, or even the objects you show them through your camera. Or, think about facial recognition systems that are way more accurate and less biased because they're not just looking at a still image, but they're also analyzing things like microexpressions and body language. This kind of multimodality could make technology so much more intuitive and really change how we interact with the digital world. I mean, it's pretty exciting to think about. How do you imagine this kind of AI, one that can process all these different forms of information, could change your interactions with technology in the future?
It's like giving AI a richer sensory experience,
Yeah.
right? Allowing it to experience the world more like we do in all its complexity. That's a game changer. Now, the article goes on to discuss the impact of all of this on various industries, which is what they call impact on diversas industrias. And it's clear that, we're not just talking about theory here. This stuff has real-world implications.
Big time.
Yeah.
Just the fact that Gemini 2.5 Pro can understand and generate human language so well, that alone is a huge leap forward for human-machine communication. But then you combine that with its deep reasoning abilities, its multimodal capabilities, and suddenly we're looking at a whole new level of potential for transformation across so many different fields. It's pretty mind-blowing, actually.
Yeah, no doubt. So let's break it down industry by industry, starting with scientific research.
Yeah.
What does the article say about that?
Well, one of the most exciting things they highlight is the potential for Gemini 2.5 Pro to help scientists analyze these massive, incredibly complex data sets, which are really common in research these days. And it's not just about crunching numbers, it's about actually finding meaningful patterns, making connections, and even coming up with new hypotheses. Imagine how much faster scientific discoveries could happen if researchers had this AI assistant helping them sift through mountains of data and pointing them in the right direction. That's like having a superpowered research partner, right?
That's a game changer for science, for sure. What about healthcare?
In healthcare, the article really focuses on the potential for more accurate and, importantly, earlier diagnoses. Think about it. If AI can help doctors detect diseases at their earliest stages, when treatment is most likely to be effective, that could have a huge impact on people's lives. And because it can process so many different types of information, like medical images, lab results, even the doctor's handwritten notes, treatments can become much more personalized, tailored to each patient's individual needs and their specific situation. It's the move towards personalized medicine that people have been talking about for years, and now it's actually becoming a reality.
That's incredible. AI helping to personalize healthcare. That's a huge step forward.
Yeah.
So what other fields does the article mention?
Well, they talk about education, which is another area where personalized experiences are becoming more and more important. Imagine like a learning environment where AI can adapt the content and the pacing to each student's individual learning style, and not just adapt it, but also provide personalized support and tutoring along the way. This could totally revolutionize education, moving away from this one-size-fits-all approach to something that's much more effective and engaging for every student.
That would be amazing. To be able to tailor education to each individual. I mean, that's a dream come true for a lot of teachers and students, right? And what about finance?
In finance, they talk about using Gemini 2.5 Pro's deep reasoning capabilities to analyze those really complex market trends that are constantly changing. The idea is that this could lead to more accurate predictions, better risk management, maybe even a more stable and efficient financial system overall. I mean, who wouldn't want that?
Yeah, less volatility in the markets. That would be great.
Yeah.
So basically, across all these different fields, science, healthcare, education, finance, it seems like the common theme is this: more accurate analysis, faster processes, and more personalized solutions, all thanks to the power of Gemini 2.5 Pro. It's really a game changer. Now, for those who are wondering how they can get their hands on this technology, let's talk about availability and what the future holds.
The good news is that Gemini 2.5 Pro is already available for developers and anyone who's interested in experimenting with it through Google AI Studio and Gemini Advanced. So you can actually go and play around with it right now, see what it can do.
That's great. So it's not just some theoretical concept, it's actually accessible right now.
Right. And it's not going to stay confined to those platforms either. The article mentions that it will soon be integrated with Vertex AI, which is Google's main AI platform for businesses. So pretty soon, companies all over the world will be able to use Gemini 2.5 Pro to develop all sorts of new applications and solutions specific to their industries. It's really going to be interesting to see what they come up with.
It sounds like Google is making a big push to make this technology widely available, which is exciting. And the article ends by emphasizing that this is just the beginning. Google is committed to continuing its research and development in AI, which means we can expect even more amazing advancements in the future.
Exactly. And that's what makes this all so exciting. Gemini 2.5 Pro isn't the end game. It's just a major step forward in this ongoing journey of AI innovation. Who knows what the future holds, right?
So to wrap things up, the key takeaway here is that Gemini 2.5 Pro represents a huge leap forward for artificial intelligence. Its ability to reason, to code, to understand information from so many different sources, it really has the potential to transform how we use technology and how we address some of the biggest challenges facing our world.
We've talked about its potential in areas like scientific research, healthcare, education, finance, but honestly, these are just a few examples. The possibilities are pretty much limitless. It really does feel like we're on the cusp of a new era of AI, and that's both exciting and, a little bit daunting at the same time.
It is. So as we leave you today, we want to leave you with this question. Given all these advancements, what new possibilities do you see emerging from the intersection of AI and your own interests, your own passions, your own line of work? Take some time to think about it. What could the future hold? What new innovations might be built on this foundation? It's a pretty fascinating landscape to contemplate.
It really is.
And that's it for our deep dive today. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.